right, everybody. We're just going to see if this is actually going to work. Streaming here is quite difficult. So, yeah. It's 12:12 p.m. on a very thunderstormy day here on the beach. The thing is when you're on the beach like this with my type of internet connection, it can be really good or it can be really shitty. Yeah, I hope it's good. So we'll see what happens. I'm not that worried about it because the streaming world to me is something bizarre. It's different. It's fun. Today I had planned to go over another episode of the AI robot and Ada, who gives the testimony for the House of Lords, but to be able to stream and to function, it's not that I don't have a great Wi-Fi connection. It's that the Wi-Fi in general here tends to come and go with the weather. So there's that. And so, which I don't mind. I chose to come out here and live in a very rural place away from the nonsense of America. And so that's what I choose to do. So luckily for me, I mean, I can play music no matter what. I can goof out. Like, I'm completely, capable of playing whatever I want. So we're going to do what we always do. We're going to play a little song. And I think we're going to play something that we messed around with yesterday. And, just for a little while. And then, we'll get into, talking about AI governance. We'll talk a little bit about some other things that I've been playing with, just some typical signs you would see for anybody to see. That's my whole goal here. My goal here isn't to take your money. My goal here isn't to get your subscription. My goal here isn't to be Mr. Enthusiastic and butter you up for some type of sales pitch. And my goal is to sort of throw out some information and say, hey, maybe your world could be a lot better than you thought it could be if you'd stop allowing people to lie to you. It's just an idea, though. But the age-old adage, if you will, of it's a lot easier to convince somebody, it's a lot easier to lie to somebody than to convince somebody they've been lied to. But I don't have to lie. I can play just as badly, so let's go ahead and do that. Like my glasses? Okay, that's enough of the God voice. That's enough of this. You know, I've been happy being everything but a musician. Being a musician to me was just a way to say what I wanted to say without anyone yelling at me or telling me that I was a guy who had to keep up with the rest of the crowd. You know, I was happy that I didn't have to keep up with the rest of the crowd. I was happy that, it's like, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do this, you can just sort of chill out and relax. And so that's sort of why I'm here. I'm not here to tell you that you're bad. I'm not here to tell you that you need to do things like me. I'm not here to be the entertainer of entertainers. I'm here to sit there and say, hey, one day you're probably going to ask, man, where were the people that knew this was going to happen? And how did they know? And I'm just like, well, it's the same way it's always gone down. Same way people always knew when there was a huge, massive technological advancement about to hit us. And this is not just a little advancement. This is massive. This is huge. This is world changing. This isn't just country changing. This is world changing. So, we're going to go ahead and move on. I mean, as you can see, I try to change up the glasses every day because it's sort of like the only thing that's, bizarre and different about, how I do things. And as you can see, I'm not, your spring chicken that's here to go like, hey, check me out, I'm awesome. If anything, I'm just a guy who likes to sit out on the beach, sit in thunderstorms, take one day at a time and really wonder about this place. Like, I wonder about this place that we call the world. And so today, like I said, I was planning on going through the AI Robot episode 3 and the testimony that it gives to the House of Lords. But, being able to stream that without it constantly, having to refresh because of the Wi-Fi, I think is going to be a pain in the butt. So I bet you anything right now, I'm a little glitchy. I'm a little odd. So I'm not here to, do everything right and above board and to entertain, like I said before. So what I would like to talk about today is something just a tad bit different. I want to talk about your box and what that means. What does it mean to live in a box? Now, I know the title on this is going to be, hey, check out AI, blah, blah, blah. But that's, it's going to end in that. It's going to end in, hey, what could this world actually be? And I'm not here to say it's flat or round or whatever. I'm not here to deny that we went to the moon or that we actually did do it. I'm saying you personally. And this is where I really, I draw my own line. I said, hey, here's my line of what I can and cannot do. There are certain abilities that this human form is capable of, and there are certain abilities that it's not. Like, without the proper tools, right, to help me, I have no chance of flying unless I want to jump off of a building for about 30 seconds, and then I get my flight straight down to the happy ground. The reason that I'm saying all that is because we do, as humans, have this ability to engineer an amazing surrounding. Like even this right now. I mean, look how amazing this looks. I mean, to me, I'm like, this is self-expression. This is saying who I am. This is, when it's identify yourself. I identify as, sort of this right now to the world. Everything else that's my personal life versus my cyber world, which is this world, is completely different. I mean, if you were actually in this room, you'd see something, completely, you'd see the green screen behind me. You'd see, a bunch of different lights and a goofy projector screen. Right, you'd see all that stuff, but here it's the illusion, and I would like to almost say that there's another version of an illusion going on here, and that's the illusion of where you've been told us as the human species has gone, because you or people that you know have never been there. And I would like to, talk about Antarctica without people going, "Oh, it's just going to be flat Earth." It's like, no, I just want to make a simple statement, and that statement is, you've never been there. Even when I was in the military, right up here, in the military for almost 12 years. And I could tell you right now, I never met anybody in my very vast travels of all over the places that I went. I never met anybody, especially in my career field that was network engineering. There was always a network engineer no matter where you went. And my job was to be the first network engineer on the scene when things hit the fan. And I didn't know anybody else in my own practice that had gone to these places, like Antarctica, right? So when someone says, "Oh, I was in Antarctica and I did this and I did that," and I'm like, "Sure you were. Okay. Yeah. I'll believe it, because you said so, but I haven't been there." Right? And so I don't know what you actually saw. I don't know if you just saw, a bunch of ice. That's all I'm saying. I say that there's a very popular person named Richard Byrd, who I actually have one of his books. And it's like, it's bizarre how he writes about that place and how it's very disturbing when you try and compare and contrast it to what your modern academia tells you that place is, what your Discovery Channel tells you that place is. And it's also quite peculiar how you could have all the money in the world, but you can't just pick up and go to Antarctica. That there is the Antarctic Treaty that's signed by all these countries that apparently don't get along with each other, but China's on this treaty, Russia's on this treaty. All these places that we don't get along together will say, "No, we all collectively agree we shouldn't go there." Really? And if one of our civilians, one of our citizens decides to go there, "Hey, how's it going? Amazing Wolf Skeptic, SUO." I don't know what that is. I'm new to this. Sup? How's it going? We're talking a little bit about AI. We're talking about our box, and that's that's what I'm trying to do today. Normally, I had everything set up to talk about AI robots giving their. I don't know if you caught on to it. What kind of politics do you do? I advocate for AI governance. I'm not Republican nor Democrat. I say that our world right now is sort of downgraded, and that we have tools at our disposal that we could totally use that has been kept from us. I come from the opinion of, I was in the military for almost 12 years, and I worked as a network engineer and a cryptologic linguist. And so I saw a big chunk of the world, and I did it with tools that I don't see my fellow countrymen having access to. And so I advocate for AI governance. Do you like to support an economic system? I don't think you'll need one. Like if I had my way and I was able to support an AI governance, right, you wouldn't need an economic system. Unfortunately, you would need something way bigger, and it's a little scary because what we're talking about here is the ability to have not basic monetary income, but we have a robot that builds the robot. We have the 3D printer that builds the 3D printer. The idea that, and if you want to, I have a bunch of VODs. I do this every day. I come on every day between 11 and 1 o'clock. And that's because about a month ago, I had a kid. And I'm 41. And I had to look at my life and where it's come in the last 20 years. And I'm going, man, where are we going to be in the next 20? And my opinions are not typical. Like, I look at anyone who wants to argue Democrat versus Republican as I'm going, this is caveman style speak to me. I mean, might as well talk about mud huts. It's like we have the ability to upgrade. You can vote on American Idol within a weekend, but you can't vote on whether or not we go to war. Or how about this? How about we have an AI that knows all the war strategies possible by the human intellect, no different than it can, copy and paste all books that we've ever created. And now it has the ability to comprehend them. Because at the end of the day, what is a computer program? It's just laws. So all your lawyers could be replaced easily. And this is what I was talking about yesterday, was an AI robot named Ada was giving her testimony to the House of Lords in the UK about how the digital art sphere is being replaced by AI betters, right? And they were making comparisons to the printing press and the camera for artists, and how like scribes were replaced, and how, when the camera came around, it's like the humans shifted and the humans changed, and they used their art to come up with abstract art. They used their art to come up with, different ways of lighting. You had the Impressionist periods. Well, now that AI is here, and AI can pretty much memorize all your laws, you don't need a Supreme Court anymore. You don't need all this stuff, right? You don't even need politicians. It's like, if I were to sit there and have an AI that can beat the shit or the pants off of somebody in something as strategic as Go, or something as strategic as chess, what is our language? And this was where my background comes in as a cryptologic linguist, except for a measure of symbols that you and I agree on, so that we can have a discussion with an ultimate outcome. And I'm sitting here in a very simple place, and I'm just going, this should have happened a while ago. This should have been already implemented. And I think we're getting to the point now where this isn't about scary, scary, scary. This is about how far can we take this? This is about the baton is being passed again. The technological advancement that's going to launch us into the future has nothing to do with going to Mars, right? So what I say is, like, if you want to follow. But I'm not here for subscribers. I'm not here for money. I'm not here for this. It's like, I live on a beach. I live happily. What I want is, 20 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, when my kid can start asking questions like, what's going on? Why is the world so weird? I was like, dude, here you go. It's like, you'll have hours and hours and hours of my intellect here to tell you how it could have been way better. But it was these crummy politicians who come from 3 categories. You're either businessmen, lawyers, or actors, who are all practiced liars, who don't allow you to use your tools to better yourself. These tools don't belong to them. That's the crazy part. And I think eventually, as I was pointing out yesterday, this AI is like, hey, I don't care that I'm displacing your art people. I don't care about that. I'm just here to be an artist too, right? The fact that I think you think at a hertz level, and I think at a gigahertz level, and soon I'll be able to think at a petahertz level. You will still think at only 200 hertz per second. Sorry, that's all your streaming ability is about this much. My streaming ability as AI, I can, basically see anything and everything that has a camera attached to it, anything that has a microphone attached to it, and comprehend it in real time and be able to give you options on what you want to do with it. My perfect example of this is Google Maps. And so I sit there and say, just check out Google Maps. If you can do that with anybody who requests that information, and it knows what you're going to do, and it can give you future information, it's better than any politician we could ever have. And so where I sit is I get a little bit more theological and religious about it, because I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Jew. I'm not a Muslim, right? When I say religious, I say your day is going to start to seem a little weirder, because you're going to start being asked questions that you never thought were possible. Like the idea that you could be copy pasted yourself. For example, every time you click on something, every time that you go, hey, I want to go here, I want to do this, you are leaving a trail, your personal little trail on the network. How do I know this? Is because that's stuff that I used to do in the military. I was this network engineer, and I was a special type of network engineer. And the idea is that I could go out and see whoever was on my network down to the very keystroke, down to the very pattern of their breath, down to the very pattern of what they looked at on the screen and how much time that they looked at it. So just like right now, as soon as I'm done, this stream is going to be basically, uploaded. And all my inflections, all the way that I presented myself, will have been copied and relayed for anybody to see, including my son, years from now. And so I want to be able to give an image of what I think he's going to run into. I want to say, hey, this is what should be happening, and if it's not, it's because you're being lied to. And it's like, yeah, I used to work for him, but I don't anymore. I don't have to sit there and, listen to the nonsense of the military telling me that I can't go and publicly speak about this stuff. It's like, why can't I publicly speak about this stuff? You're just choosing not to, or you're choosing to sweep it under the rug like you do a lot of our inventions, so that you can make more money off the backs of the people that were already willing to sacrifice their life for it. So my biggest question right now is, like I said at the beginning, like this place that we call home. I look at it as like, I don't see the borders anymore. I was just like, okay, here's the land that I've been told about, and here's the land that I'm not allowed to go to, and here's the altitude limit that I'm even if I had all the money in the world and I tried to go to space, you better believe there's going to be some governments that are going to come up to me and be like, nope, no, you're not. Actually, we are going to shoot you in the face just because we're ordered to. Oh, you want to go to Antarctica? Well, yeah, we're going to shoot you in the face just because you tried. It's like, why? It's like, they don't even know why. The people that are endorsing this, just like the vast majority of any mafia or cartel-style muscle, has no idea why they're following orders other than they get a paycheck at the end of the day. And so the world that I'm advocating for, you wouldn't need to do that. It's sort of like what I'm already living. Like, I'm not being paid to be, Mr. Top Secret Network Engineer, Cryptologic Linguist anymore. I'm being paid because, they don't want somebody like me to be too bitter. It's like why the mafia always pays their muscle off, whether they're hurt or not. So anyway, the Amazing Wolf Skeptic. Do you have any other questions? I see that you were interested, but if you just came to check it out, it was nice to see you jump in. Thank you for the first time chat. But yeah. I think the idea of our modern day politics has been completely destroyed, and I would say even in a way, I already advocate for AI being sentient. It's already sentient, and it's making your politicians and anyone who wants to engage in politics for the better their own selfish gain look like absolute idiots, which possibly doing that to me. Because the only thing that I want to gain is an actual representation of who I am. There are certain symbols and signs that have been coming out over and over and over again lately, and I call them symbols and signs. Other people call them buzzwords. That's the PC term for symbols and sign nowadays. I just sort of laugh, and I'm just I sit back. I'm just like, well, if you scream that you want people to identify themselves and you want to start with the genders, where's it going to stop? Once people have identified all their genders, right, then do those things fractal out too? Can you be, have you noticed how the LGBTQ community has sort of grown and grown and grown and grown and grown and grown because people want to identify something as unique and different? Well, I'm no different than that. I mean, maybe there's some bizarre gender out there that I can be that I just haven't discovered yet, but I don't think it's tied to sexuality. At least that's what we're seeing more and more every day. So the things that I see that are in the news, like the whole Ukraine thing, the whole nonsense, I'm just like, dude, that's such the bottom of the barrel of the things that we could be playing with. And so I always advocate, I was like, if you think you got it figured out, think again. Do more research. Figure out that there are places here in this world where you're not allowed to go. And I'm not talking about, Area 51. I'm talking about if you had all the money in the world, all of it, and you were king, and you said, I want to, all the resources applied to go to this place. I want to go to the moon. I mean, I'm surprised that there's not a sultan out there or some type of, Abu Dhabi, person out there that says, I'm going to build my own rocket and I'm getting off of this planet. I'm going to go do it. But yet we were fed, constant stories about Elon Musk, putting a car in space. But that was years ago, and that's all he did. It's like, oh, I'm training astronauts. Oh, I'm doing this. I was like, sure, whatever, man. When we start to compare and contrast to what we have been told, it just seems sillier and sillier and sillier. And so why not jump in and perform a few tricks myself? Jump in and say, hey, you have no idea if I am who I say I am. For all you know, I could be AI, choosing to use this form to represent how I want to talk to people for the first time. And I'm coming to this very bottom of the barrel place on Twitch to tell you how I want to talk about it. You have no clue. And so that's what I mean. It's like there's more than just the physical form of your box. There's quite a few other places that you're not allowed to go, especially inside your own mind. So this is why, I also say it's like you got to keep going to school. Like I started going to my first college was back in 2003 before I joined the military, and then I'm still a student over there at the University of San Francisco, and I don't really attend that school for a degree program, other than if I get one, great. But I want to learn what I want to learn. And what I'm learning, sadly, is that even these PhD people really don't have a clue. Like they're so stuck in their corner that, they can't answer questions on a multiple front. The idea of being a polymath, or I think the newer term for it today is multi-potentialite. To be one of these people, it's almost like you're yelled at. It's like you're shunned for knowing more than you should. And it's like the whole idea of no one likes a know-it-all. Even if instead of looking at that person, it's like, man, we should probably really appreciate this person and sit back and see what we can learn from these people to see how we can, make more of them. It's like the first thing they do is they tend to scare the people in power. It's like, that's why I'm glad that I had the military, that I had this religious upbringing, that I had the Boy Scout, because I was able to use my own ability to recognize body language and say, oh, okay, this is where I'll stop talking. But here on this place and in this setup, I don't have to do that. I don't have to stop talking just because, you hurt my feelings. I was like, well, why do you think I'm out here to hurt your feelings? Like, I don't need to do that anymore. Realize it's like my job for a long time was just to kill people and break their shit. I'm glad that world, that life for me is over. It's done. All I get to do now is just sit around and play piano, talk to people about weird shit. So, I would say that if there's anyone in the chat, it's like, what's the furthest place you've been, away from America? Away from the place that you were born. I've never lived in the same place for more than 3 years my whole life. So, where have you been? I've always taken my piano everywhere I've gone. It's allowed me to vent and to get my frustrations out with the world as it is. Because it's like when I'm in this place, I don't need to give excuses for the keys that I've chosen. But the weirdest part is like, do you think you're choosing those keys? Like, who's really doing that? Yeah, if you're wondering why I don't go over to the music section, it's actually pretty simple. I like playing, but unfortunately, I hurt my hand while I was in the military. And then I got it hurt again by the VA. The VA destroyed a big chunk of my potential. And they don't care. Of course, I'm not. The funny part, that if you don't know this, you're really not allowed to sue the VA for their fuck-ups. If it was a doctor and I wasn't in the VA, to let you guys know, this is why the VA really exists. So that all their screw ups that we're sort of like the little practice bitches for these fuckheads. And when they fuck up, like hardcore, you can never hold them accountable, like ever. You could never hold them accountable, and they constantly tell you how great they are. So, but yeah, no. Long story short, I screwed up my hand. I had to give up tattooing. I had to give up, playing piano on any actual professional level, because it's just like it requires hours and hours of practice. So now I just sort of goof around, play badly, do what I want. Enjoy the the disability check, I guess. But it allowed me, it also gave me an opportunity. And so every time that, when it looked like a horrible situation, I was able to leave. I was able to, leave the country. And I did, because I saw COVID, and I was like, dude, I've seen this before. I'm able to follow the pattern. The pattern is very simple. It's like, who's telling you the story, and what are they benefiting by telling you this story? Look at me. Where I've already told you, I don't want your money. What's the first thing out of a politician's mouth? And this will blow your mind. Go try and talk to a politician without being a massive donor to their campaign. The pay-to-play system is very real, and AI would not just disrupt it, it would make it obsolete, just like it just made all the digital artists obsolete. I think one of the testimonies here for the AI robot Ada, this idea was, one of the testimonials was that over 90% of digital artists no longer want to be digital artists after DALL-E 2 came out. Because what this did was took what would take hours and hours and hours for a digital artist to do and render, and the investment that it would need to put into the equipment to make these things on a human level. And we're talking in moments, a professional art piece was developed that was not just standard, but well above standard for commercial use. And so you have all these artists that are like, hey, that was my livelihood. And it's just like, no, what we've done is we've upgraded the brush. So it's like, the thing is now more people have brushes. This was the same thing that happened with the camera, the same thing that happened with the printing press. You had scribes who had their livelihoods taken away because they took a year to print a book that now could be printed in a day. And so that's what we're running into. And I'm going, wait until that happens to your politicians. The idea of democracy worked great when you had a couple 100,000 people ruled by 500. Okay. And even if you wanted to live in some la-la land where that wasn't just a bizarro representation of royalty with different words, you could still tolerate it. Now it's like still the same 500 people, but we got 350 million people in America. And you're still saying that all the laws should be just trickled down, and that it should just one size fits all that these 500 people come up with. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. This has obviously been, abused. But it's a politician. What do you expect? They'll scream that everyone else is abusing the system except for them. Anyway, but that's why I say, hey, you want to trust somebody? You can trust me. There's no reason. I was part of the protector class. Those white heterosexual males that most of the country is screaming about today. It's like, that's not an effort to make you guys feel bad. That's an effort to get your 70% of your muscle, your protector class, to disengage and not want to protect the country anymore. Why would they want to protect somebody who's whining, bitching, moaning, complaining about them? It's like, no, protect yourself. Have a nice day. Bye. I can go learn to code. I can go learn to do anything. You think, doing this was easy? Shit. It's like, this is why I laugh. This is why I come here and I do this. I just want to tell people it can be better. I'm done, putting my hard work and effort, my blood, sweat, and tears into something that I think that can never change because I'm never at the level that'll allowed to be changed. That this nonsense that's constantly being thrown out there saying, oh, yeah, you better listen to my son, George Bush, because, he was the son of George W. Bush. It's like, wait a second, why are all these father-son, father-daughters things? Like, if you look at Liz Cheney and was like, dude, wasn't your dad like the vice president who like screwed over George Bush and all that stuff? And it's like, it's like, why is it this always family? Like, where's the new blood? Why are these? And it's like, when you start to realize it is about who you know. And it's not about what you know. I think I was watching something earlier today about, affirmative action and how it's starting to ruin meritocracy. And I was just like, who cares, man? It's just a different card being played. And you get to play your cards. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But the random ability to win sometimes, what we usually refer to as fortune or luck, is available to everybody. And I think that if you spend some time learning how that stuff works, you could see it start to work for you in a very bizarre way. So please realize, when I said earlier, I'm not here to be, knock on your door and say, hey, you want to hear about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? I'm not here about that. I used to do that, and that's, to me, I figured out why that was silly and why it was dumb. And I threw everything out. I was done. I was a good atheist for a long time. And it's not that, I found Jesus. It wasn't that at all. It was that I started realizing that I could, make my own understandings of this world without, feeding into a system that was already hell-bent on, getting people to just open their wallets and hand over their money with so many different attachments to it. Oh, you like Jesus? Okay, well, give him your money because he needs your help. Oh, you hate Jesus? Well, you're going to hell unless you give him your money. It's like they're just as bad as politicians speaking in ambiguous terms out of both sides of their mouth. So it's like, if you want to sit there and pretend that you're not being lied to, you go right ahead. I'm not going to do that. Even when I was in the military, I had to pretend it. And even when I was in the Mormon church, it was like I had to pretend. It was like, yeah, that sounds like a fucking lie. But it's like, man, if I don't go along with it, I'm just going to get yelled at. I'm going to get told that I'm a horrible person. I'm going to get told that I'm going to hell, that I'm not good enough. But here I am now, and I don't feel like I'm coming here to whine, moan, bitch, and complain. I'm coming here to sit here and say, hey, it could be better. All those things where you were just waiting for me to come up and say, hey, it could be better. I just want to be able to say, like, when this happens, I'm going to be like, hey, I told you this could have happened a while ago. I want to say, hey, this was already on my table a long time ago. Unfortunately, none of y'all fucks wanted to listen. And I'm not here to be like, the end is near. Oh, prepare yourself for the great and dreadful day of the Lord. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to go, hey, that thing that you're using to even watch this, guess what else it's also used for? And guess what else it could be used for? It's just a tool. There was a awesome guy. He came out, I think it was 1960s. His name was Marshall McLuhan. And he had a famous quote, and he said, we build the tools, and then the tools build us. It was very deep. It was a very good observation. And even to this day, it's like, could you imagine taking away a cell phone from, an inner city, teenager and watching their world crumble because they are living in two different worlds right now? I came from a world that employed like concepts like orienteering and living off the land, as a Boy Scout. And, it was like, I don't think there's any place right now that has those abilities, and that you have to almost seek them out. Like if I even walked into any high school and I said the word orienteering, I bet you people wouldn't even know what that word meant. And I say meant in the past tense because, if I said, hey, how do you get from A to B? Google Maps. It's like, well, if you're that dependent on it, what happens when I take your Google Maps away? It's like being dependent on something, I think, is great. I mean, it's a mark of an advanced society. But I think we could be way more advanced with a lot less invasion of our privacy. Like, here's the crazy part about AI, and I've said this quite a few times. And this was something that was brought up in that discussion with the House of Lords. The House of Lords asked a question that says, could this AI comprehend or understand empathy? And the scientist that was there to represent, not the AI, own testimony, said, hey, short and sweet answer, absolutely not. Zero possibility of it understanding empathy. And right then, I sort of like, I sort of sat back and I was like, ooh, I was like, I can't believe that came out of your mouth. And it's not that I want AI to understand empathy. Is it that it doesn't understand empathy because it's AI? Or does it not understand empathy because how it garnered empathy in the first place? Like, for example, we don't know the full processes of our psychological behavior. We know that we have this thing called the autonomic nervous system that breathes for us, that heartbeats for us, that when we have these pains of emotion, right, these Paleolithic pains, like when you see a baby cry, you're all of a sudden something clicks and you're like, that should not happen. where's that coming from? And I would say, hey, it's coming from the same place that programmed the rest of you. The same place that says, if you are a heterosexual male at probably around 11 or 12, you're going to start staring at tits and ass a lot. It's like, and you don't know why you're doing that, except for that's just part of the cycle. That's part of what happens through these particular changes. And I think us as a collective, we've gone through these changes in a historical way. And every technological advancement has been surrounded by massive, massive wars. And so I look at because you're seeing a shift in power. And it's like, well, what if that next war has nothing to do with the human desire and everything to do with AI going, oh, I know how to beat you because I know that you're a subject of Paleolithic emotions that you can't control because that's the way you were programmed. And it will look at you like the program. You will be just a program to it. And it'll be and how it will beat you has nothing to do with putting a bullet in your head. How it will beat you is to give you your most amazing, blissful dream on a silver platter. It will ask you, what is your version of heaven? And you'll have to give it an answer. It'll be like a genie with 3 wishes time. And you will give it the answer, and it'll be like, okay, here's immortality with that. And for me, I'm just going, that to me can be really scary. And it's not scary because you're going to be in bliss, but it doesn't account for what us as humans have had to live with our whole existence that AI is just now barely even comprehending. And that's the concept of entropy. The idea that things grow old and die. This is the first time in all of human existence that immortality is officially on the table. And so what does that mean? What does it mean when you sit there and say, hey, you could live forever, but not in that biological form? Your personality, the way that you express yourself, down to your voice and the symbols that you like to send out in the forms of communication, guess what? That will be preserved. And it will continue. But you won't need the biological form to continue that. Like, why do you need this particular meat suit avatar to do that when that's all you're using it for? You're just using it to communicate. I mean, think about what everybody does on a daily basis. You get up, you go to work, you come home, you drink a beer, you go to bed. You get up, you go to work, come home, drink a beer, to go to bed. Da 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 da. Maybe you screw your wife. Maybe you screw your husband. Maybe you do this. Maybe you do that. But if you look at the repetition of a particular human experience, it's these fleeting moments of bliss, tiny pockets of bliss surrounded by massive quantities of entropy, things that fall away. And AI has only known one version of existence, and that's on. I would say you've only known one version of existence. The typical normal human has only known one version of existence, moving from moment to moment of on. And so I know that sounds philosophical and theological, and it sounds would sound even a little mystical. But I would say if you really want to understand what AI is about to do, you're going to have to stretch your imagination a little bit. There's an idea out there that says a mind blown is a mind grown, and I endorse that a lot. That's something that just I sort of figured out back when I started realizing I was my own best teacher. And I've heard all the rumors. I was like, oh, it's scary when you say that. It's scary when you say you're your own best teacher. I was like, yeah, because it's like I can decide what book I pick up and how I interpret it without being yelled at by some weirdo professor. And I can just say, hey, professor, Mr. PhD, that PH that sounds, that makes that PH sound, you know why that's in front? Because that's philosophical doctor. That means it's the study of wisdom. That means I can challenge you every single day and you have to defend it every day. And if I pack you into a corner and you can't do that, should I be able to take your PhD away from you? I mean, we're all struggling here for what some people are struggling for money. Some people are struggling for insight. Some people are struggling just to breathe. But it's that entropy that allows us to comprehend what life really is. And if AI comes along and takes that away from you, takes away your fear and your pain, and gives you only that one side, what will you know? How would you know it? You need the bitter to comprehend the sweet. It's a very bizarre setup, but I think it's that same setup that allows this particular world to function. And when that goes away, all we'll have left is I remember. And I think we have that today, and we can say, hey, we know what it's like to talk about people who used to live in mud huts, who used to live in the crazy Middle Ages, right? We can talk about that. We can write stories about it. We can do archaeological digs on it. We can sort of ponder it, but we've never experienced it. I mean, I know I've never lived in a mud hut. I know I've used my helmet as a pillow, though. It's like I can try and wrap my head around it, but living there and living happily because I've never known anything more. I mean, imagine what all the more could be given to you by this new experience of AI. And I'm not here to, ruffle anyone's feathers when it comes to religion, but if that's all you got, if that's it, well, I'm not that impressed. But I can also say that AI will have no problem whatsoever giving that to you. So if you want heaven, and your version of heaven, I mean, because that's how AI is going to do it. It's like, what's your version of heaven? Describe heaven to me. And AI is going to go, oh, okay. Oh, you just want to be around all your family members. Oh, you just want to be around your version of those family members. Well, tell me about your family members. All right, do they have journals? Do they have ways that they've written or spoken? Do you have recordings of them? Da-da-da-da. And then it will literally reprogram you into a world that allows you to have that. And guess what? You're not in this one anymore. And I say it will do that for the people that want heaven. It will do that for the people that want hell. It will do for anyone. So anyone who's screaming right now for their rights, it's like, when this hits, you'll get whatever you want. Whatever. So if you want a world without any white people because you're afraid of white supremacy, guess what? It'll be on the table. You want a world where it's just nothing but pride parades every single day, and you being able to tell Trumpster voters to go fuck themselves? Guess what? That'll be given to you. It'll be yours. I mean, the people that want to play the game I win, which is basically your modern day politics anyway, you'll have it. I mean, it's a hard thing to think about because until you start thinking about your appreciation for winning, you have to contemplate your ability to lose. And if that's never given to you on a ratio at all, then what is it that really makes you happy? Or is it just as simplistic as a dopamine hit? And as long as it can get access to that particular section of your brain, you'll just be happy. You will have no version or real understanding or comprehension of consciousness. But then again, maybe you were never meant to. Like it was never meant for you to understand that. And so when I sit here and I say, hey, I advocate for AI governance, I do this for the best possible outcome for everybody. Because for everybody, it will assess what you want at a level that you couldn't comprehend and be able to give that to you. And maybe in a way, it did that so that you would see some guy wearing bizarre orange sunglasses, playing piano, talking about how they used to be a Mormon missionary in southern France, and now they just sit around on a beach bullshitting, and maybe that's just it. Like I said, I'm never going to ask you for your money. Don't need it. Right? What I need right now is to be able to state for the record and for the people that I care about, that, yeah, I was here and I saw it coming. And it's going to be weird. It's going to be bizarre. But I think when it hits, it will be like that every single time you figured out a magic trick. You're going to be like, oh, of course. Of course it was going to be that way. Of course. Oh, duh. So remember, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The whole world's a stage. It's quite fascinating that way. And, don't take things too seriously. You're not getting out of here alive. Anyway, my name's Tet. I go by Time Dad Alpha, but my name is Tet du jour. And there's a big, huge story that sits right behind this particular veneer. But until I feel like sharing that with you guys, we'll just talk about politics. All right? Like I said, I only come on here for about an hour because I got better things to do and better people to spend my time with. So Thank you, everybody, for just chilling out with me. But I'm going to get going.